This week's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to cover some bear baiting tips and tactics. Something that we get a lot of questions if I'm doing shows, I'm doing different things, that people are, how do you set up a bait? When do you set up a bait? Do you change different scents? Or there's a lot of different questions out there that people ask because bear baiting is becoming so much more popular as bear hunting all over the country. And as it grows, people have a lot of questions. So this entire episode is going to be nothing but how-tos and tips and tactics on that. And who do I have but, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best in the business, but Jim Gibson with me today, NBC Guide Service, Art Hyde. These guys, they're some of the best in the industry. I've worked with a lot. These guys are great. They know what they're doing. So I feel honored to sit here with Gibby and go over some of these questions that I have for him to help you understand when to get things going and how to start your bear baits and be more successful, either in the spring or the fall, either way. So welcome, Gibby. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess to start things off, what do you really look for when you're walking through the woods and just kind of, all right, I want to set up a bear bait? What are you looking for? Is it topography? Is it water sources? Is it the woods density? What are some of the key things that you focus in on to really start a bear bait?
Well, it's probably all three. I look for food, cover, water. Water close by. We like to hunt on ridges, close to swamps, but the bears need the darker the area, the better it is. The bears will feel more comfortable in the forest. If it's dark, where you're going to be putting your bait. And I also look at trees behind you, for backup, for your stands.
So if you're, when you're going in to set that up, are there little knobs or there game trails? Are you looking where they all converge into one that are coming from swamps to different food sources? Or are you looking just for those super dark areas that have a lot of canopy, or kind of a mix?
Yeah, sort of a mix. A lot of times the bear trails aren't going to be there, but they will be there once you start baiting.
Okay. Well, and that's, I guess, a couple of the next things we're going to get into is, to start your baiting, what do you prefer? Do you just dump things, scents? What scents do you prefer, and do you just dump them on the ground, or how do you get things started to get bears to start coming to this area?
Well, I use fryer oil from restaurants, as long as it's strained, and it has to be like a vegetable oil. And I add Northwood's Gold Rush to it, and usually within a day or two, the baits are hit.
Okay.
And the bears are coming.
And why do you use the grease? Does it? Yeah, I've heard a lot of different stories that it sticks to their fur, it sticks to their feet. It gets in their pads and they carry that scent all over, bringing more bears to that. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, it is. We just pour the grease on the ground around where you're going to have your bait. The bears will walk in it and they'll track it all over God's creation. And the Gold Rush is really a strong smelling scent. You can smell it they'll smell it for miles away.
Okay. Now in Wisconsin, I do know that here, when you were talking about fryer grease, that if you're asking restaurants or supper clubs, whoever, for that fryer grease, that it can't have any meat or fish in it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We usually get strained. It's usually strained for us where we pick up our grease. And like I said, it has to be a vegetable oil. It can't have any animal byproducts in it where it would hold its shape at a colder temperature.
Okay. And that's true with any type of bait, though, that it can't have any animal products in it, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because I know that at one time I talked to a gentleman about using dog food, and he really liked it. But I believe that the warden at the time, when I talked to the warden about it, they said that it had to be, it couldn't have any chicken or beef or anything in that dog food, that it had to be vegetarian.
Correct.
Dog food.
The only animal byproduct you can use is cheese.
Okay.
And Bears love cheese.
Really?
Yeah.
Must be Wisconsin Bears.
We went through over 3 tons of cheese last year.
They like cheese curds?
Yeah,
Huh.
they do.
Maybe I'm kind of a partial bear then. But so, and that'll get things started as the seasons change. Like right now in the spring, because we're here in the spring, and we can't hunt here in the spring. But I like to come up here because the rut is going.
Right.
And as the rut's going, I'm up here to photograph bears and video bears, and so and learn more about bears. And as I do that, it gives me that opportunity. However, soon we'll be getting into summer, so there'll be a whole different food source.
Right.
After that, we'll get into fall. They'll start dropping acorns. Things will happen. Do you have to change your baits from donuts and graham crackers and
Right.
Skittles and whatever to something completely different?
Yeah, I do. Early in the year, I use we just call it filler bait. It can be
Okay.
like cones, bread, donuts. I don't care if they come in and walk away with it, you know. And the closer I get to season, I use smaller bait. You know, like you can use taco shells as long as they're crushed up. And but I do switch over to all nuts and dates right before when the bears are transitioning their diets. That's when I transition my bait too.
Okay.
And if you see bait left, they're getting tired of that bait. So actually, I switch up my bait quite often. You know.
And is it, what is your, is there a favorite go-to bait, or is there not really, and you just kind of go with the season?
Early in the year, I feed them about anything from popcorn to donuts, bread, you about name it. But once I get into the fall, when the acorns are dropping, that's when I switch over to nuts. I use hazelnuts, walnuts, peanuts, dates, and that's about it. You know, and I don't give them too much chocolate. You know, so.
Okay. Well, when they start coming into these areas, I've noticed, I've been watching you bait for years now, and doing a lot of photo work and different things here. They use hollow logs. Is there a reason that you use a hollow log rather than digging a hole or just dumping it on the ground?
Yeah, I like using a hollow log or a hollow stump that'll hold at least 10 gallons. If you dig a hole, a lot of times when it rains, all that bait is going to turn to mush. And bears are a fussy animal. A lot of times they won't even touch it. And then the next time in the bait, you got to shovel all that out. And when I use a hollow stump, I cut a base for it so it sits on top of that. And then I cut a lid for that and I put a rock on top of that. So like the smaller predators like coons and bobcats and fishers can't open up the bait and they can't dig underneath the stump.
Huh. That's kind of a neat little idea. And did you come up with that, or did you hear about that?
I did never heard about it, but I've done it. You know, I started it. I don't know if I started it, but it was just sort of my own idea.
Huh. And I've seen it work firsthand, how it works, and it is really neat how they try to come in and take that rock off first, or they try to slide that top lid.
Yeah.
And once they get that and see the baits in, and they just kind of pull the whole thing over and
Correct.
and down on top of. Well, the little bears, it's funny because when that happens, they jump really high and kind of get skittish. But some of the bigger bears don't seem to matter. They just knock it over and start eating.
The little bears, they're in somebody else's kitchen and they don't want to get caught. I've seen them really cautious opening baits. They're always looking around and because other bears know when a bait's opened up by the sound of the rocks hitting and the bait opened up. So.
And speaking of that, can you really get a bear conditioned to, if you're gonna hunt, like we hunt with a lot of disabled hunters. If you're gonna hunt with those disabled hunters, do you want to do everything the same that you're gonna take that hunter? So you would take an ATV to that spot,
Right.
and do the same thing all the time with that as you were gonna do that. You don't want to all of a sudden drive somebody in there the next day. After you've been 2 months without driving anybody in there.
Correct. Yeah. They understand when you're baiting. A lot of times in our walk-in baits, we pound the buckets so they know that we're there. ATVs, we leave them running usually, and when we leave, they know we've left and they've been fed.
Neat. So, One of the other things that I see that you do, even behind the hollow logs and different, is you put a backstop.
Yes.
Is there a reason for this backstop other than, somebody who gets a little nervous and shoots an arrow way over his back so they can recover their arrow or something like that? Is there a reason for this?
Right. The main reason we build these backstops, and we make them about 4 to 5 feet high out of the big logs and brush, is so that the bear has to come around, and it'll give that hunter a 2 out of 3 chance he'll be broadside. And we preach broadside only. You take double lung a bear, he won't go 20, 30 yards.
Right. With these tips and tactics from Gibby and NBC Guide Service, Northwoods Bear Products, please look at these, pay attention to these, because I know that if you follow these steps, do a lot of the things that Gibby and some of these other guys are doing out there, it'll help you guys own your season.